Alrighty, welcome to episode 244 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. Elon Musk has revealed Tesla's AI chip design plans for the remainder of this decade. Tesla's all but complete AI 5 design is intended to effectively perfect FSD in cars and greatly enhance Optimus robots. The next generation AI 6 will further improve Optimus and be used in data centers. Finally, AI 7, also to be known as Dojo 3, will form the backbone of space-based data centers. And that was this week's news. Indeed it was, and once again, welcome to the program. As is customary, if there is anyone who is new and is comfortable in doing so, please unmute and say hello. Or perhaps a little bit later on in the program. Alrighty, I mean, obviously there were lots of other news items that happened, and some are a bit more speculative, so I kind of leave it out of the news until things actually happen. So, Tesla never really does stop providing news, but we sort of try and pick out the bits most relevant to us. And obviously, the AI chip, some people sort of call it another secret master plan, is obviously now in place. I guess one consequence of that is I know there are some people saying, oh, I don't want to buy a Tesla until AI 5 comes out. And, really, you don't need to because Elon Musk has basically said that AI 4 is going to be many times better than a human. And yes, when AI 5 comes out, it'll basically make the cars almost perfect in his estimation and obviously vastly improve Optimus. But after that, that is kind of, in a sense, probably the last time, well, that chip will probably continue to be used in the cars, whereas subsequent variations, such as AI 6, will really be more placed in Optimus and data centers. And of course, AI 7, which is now sort of being relabeled as a revisited Dojo 3, will be out of this world and probably almost exclusively be used in orbital data centers. So there you go. Um, Alrighty, if there has anyone got any opening questions or comments? Oh, James, you got your hand up.
Might just gonna go super quick for Cameron. If he goes to the top left-hand corner, should be a symbol. I put a graphic into the chat. This is on the iPhone, but I assume Zoom's the same on both.
Sorry, just going to grab it.
Yep.
Let's see if that
So mine had
works.
the camera and a little symbol that would be the audio.
Perfect. Thank you. Fixed it.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. So for anyone looking, that was this one here. So I presume
I
that's
didn't.
the yellow outline
Yep.
there,
Yep.
James? Yeah, cool.
So on the S25 Ultra, I've got it's just like a recycle button sort of thing up there, and it's a little bit different to that.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, that's good for the 80% of people that don't have iPhones. Although I do note it's funny the Apple and Android comparison. Yes, Apple make the minority of smartphones, but the majority of the profit by far. And I guess you could say that's probably going to be the parallel with Tesla. It will make the minority of cars, but obviously the vast majority of the profit. So there's an interesting parallel. Alrighty. Oh, sorry. And was it Cameron? Were you going to ask some questions, or was it just about the audio?
No, it was just about the audio, but
Oh, yeah, cool.
I guess I could share some exciting news.
Yes, go.
I've ordered myself a silver on white Model 3 Performance before the door closes.
Ah, yes.
in
So,
full FSD.
and
It has the lower front-facing camera and the stalk on the steering wheel.
it's going to definitely arrive before. Oh, hi.
I,
Sorry, hang on.
I've
Is it a
already,
inventory?
yes.
Oh, perfect.
So I'll
So
get it.
before Valentine's Day.
And
Yeah,
do you know if you're
already
getting the larger 16-inch screen?
No, that's only for the Model Y Junipers, I think.
Oh, right. Gotcha. So it was the classic performance. Oh,
Yeah, I do have the track mode though with the Model 3 Highlander.
yeah, nice.
Yeah,
I'm
so when you
going.
say classic, Pete, it's actually, I guess you'd have to call it classic Highland because
Oh,
Highland
okay.
is not a classic Model 3.
Uh,
It's the Highland.
sorry, I thought you were getting a Model Y. Sorry.
No, Model 3.
Yeah,
No, Model
sorry.
3.
You're right.
That's where I got it wrong. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
On that note, does anyone know? I've got a Jupiter. Can we retrofit the new screen on the Jupiter?
Juniper.
That's it. That's come
Yes,
out in the performance.
Yes, you can. Or should I say, most likely, in fact, almost certainly, but it's going to cost a lot of money. And in
It's
fact,
not worth it.
I think, so for example, there is no difference in the size of let's call it the screen assembly between a Juniper and a classic Model Y and
Uh-huh.
also Model 3. The actual difference is the black border, that's the dead bit of glass between the edge and the actual active part of the screen is slightly larger. Sorry, the border is thinner, so the active part of the screen takes up more of the total screen space than it did before.
And that's
So
it's a little bit wider as it is. So I went for a
yeah,
drive in the performance model yesterday, and the resolution's chalk and cheese.
so look, I could try it. Oh, I wonder if it goes back. I've actually got a screen I bought for my classic Model Y, an entire replacement screen, because I wanted a spare for when I modified my original screen to have a HDMI input. And it's something that's super frightening to do, and I don't recommend anyone does it. And to be honest, I hardly ever used it. But yeah, I could probably test it and check. The connector is just it's a single connector that has like a coaxial cable connection combined with power and a little bit of other data as well. So I think it would work, but it's just not worth it to be well.
Well, it depends. What's expensive?
Oh,
$3,000.
$1,600 or something. It
That's
was
not
well
expensive.
over well over
I'll,
$1,000.
I'll
Well
do it
over.
for that. That's just. It's
Ask
got a new
ask Tesla. Ask Tesla. So sorry. Have you,
I went
Terry?
there. I went into Tesla. They couldn't answer me.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
Um,
more important, it doesn't interfere with the warranty.
well, not in the sense that if like if something happens to your drivetrain or something else, the only way it could affect warranty is if Tesla could establish a direct causal link between that modification and the malfunction or the inappropriate operation of something else. So
I tried to buy it, but you can't buy it anyway. So I went on the track that I went to the panel beaters, who are sanctioned tester panel beaters,
yep,
and I'm getting one of them if they don't want to rip me off to buy it. And then I might get them to install it as well. That way,
yep,
pushes that out the door.
yeah.
But
I just
you should try it. It is different. It's a lot more clearer.
mm.
As
To
you
be honest,
go.
I've got no experience going between the classic and the Juniper. So sorry, Terry, you've got a classic, have you, Model Y?
Yeah, I got launch edition Model Y. Yeah,
Oh,
the new one,
launch edition
Jupiter.
Juniper.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And you're saying there's a difference between that screen, which is 6 months
And
old, and the
and
very
and
newest one.
and the newest one, I went for a performance Model Y Performance test
Yep.
drive yesterday,
Yep, with the
and
16
they
inch
had that
screen.
screen. Yeah,
Oh, okay. I think there should be no difference. The resolution should be the same. It's just the size and the possibly the clarity is a little bit better.
no, they're not the same resolution.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'd have to question whether it would be compatible without a software update or something like that because
No, the
the
cameras are 8K cameras anyhow. So that's
no. Terry, what I mean is imagine you get well, in the old days you had a set-top box and you've got a digital TV with HDMI, say, like a computer screen. You can buy a computer screen that's 1080 by whatever, or you can get a 4K screen, or you can get a 6K or 8K screen. You won't be able to get the benefit of the resolution if the graphics card can't provide the resolution. So what we don't know is if according to you the resolution is higher as opposed to just a larger screen.
Yep.
So if that is true, what we don't know is what would happen if you plug it into your, now let's call that a classic Juniper.
hmm
Will you see that resolution or not?
Can someone
will it
give me an
go-
answer to that? Or not? Who
Not
do
in
I
this,
call?
not in this forum. No, I'd suggest. Well, yeah, Tesla. The guys. The reason why they don't know is because it's not a normal thing that people do. The best, I'd go and Google it because there'll be someone out there that might have tried it by now.
Okay. That's
I
all.
can't try it
There
because
is a few. I heard that there is a few that've tried it. and
Oh, well, in
stuff.
that case, then it's
Yeah.
fine. Then just go and do it. If you've already Googled that someone has tried it and said it works, well, then it works. You got to take their word for it.
Sure.
There's no difference between the thing now is the world is flat, and certainly the Tesla world is flat. So if one version of a Tesla screen or a revised screen works somewhere in the world, it'll work everywhere because they're all the same. So for example, performance Model Ys are built in Germany.
All right.
So those screens will come from a totally different place, potentially. Although it might still come from China in any case. We don't know. But yeah, give it a
I'm
go,
not-
Terry. You only live once. Slap
Yes,
down a
that's
couple of grand, get the price.
Yeah.
The great thing is to install it is super duper simple.
Okay.
It's literally trivial, and you can Google on YouTube any number of videos that show people taking the screen on and off for various reasons. They may do things like they'll get an adapter whereby you have a swivel mount,
Yeah. Sure,
so
yeah.
you can change the angle. Some of those are very advanced, where I think some of these are even motorized these days, because you can basically get anything for money in the Tesla world now. So it's super duper easy to swap the screens.
I did squeeze out of them yesterday when this 14 coming to Australia. They hesitant said within the next 6 months.
Yeah, that's kind of obvious, to
Mm.
be brutally honest. They don't know.
Don't know.
They often, and that's by no way of criticizing them. They don't know because they're not told. Because Tesla doesn't consider that important to disseminate amongst sales or service staff. They don't know. No one knows. There are a few people in Australia that would know, and they would be directly involved with the FSD programming, and they're mostly based in Sydney. They would know, but it's not a lot of point pestering them to ask them because, to be honest, it'll come out when it comes out. We have not yet had a single FSD update since the first release, the first public release. So I only surmise that the longer this takes, the more certain that the next release will be version 14, because it literally wouldn't make sense to release anything but a version 14, given its distinctive change in architecture or enhancement in architecture. So it's all but certain that, yes, it will be a version 14 of some sort. But when we get it, I just don't know.
Okay.
I'm sure it's going to be one of the longest. It's probably going to be a record interval between software releases for FSD/Autopilot ever.
And they are talking, I hear on the grapevine, that they're not offering upfront costs for the FSD. You got to get subscription if you want it.
There's no grapevine. That's official. Tesla. That was in last week's news.
Oh, was it? Okay. Sorry.
So Elon Musk
been
has,
away.
and that's cool. Elon Musk has declared, and Tesla has retweeted that same declaration, that FSD will no longer be available for sale beyond Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, none of us have bothered to do the proper maths. It's a little bit of Excel spreadsheet gymnastics that you need to do, but suffice to say that if you consider the difference between buying FSD for $10,100 Australian or paying $149 Australian per month, the so-called payback period is nothing like getting 10,100 and simply dividing it into 149 and calling that a number of break-even months. And just for example, $10,100 into 149 is
About
67.
5.5.
Yeah, 67 or nearly 68 months, and that's about 5.5 years. That's actually misleading. You need to incorporate the time value of money, and you should also, and you've got to make a couple of assumptions. You've got to factor in an estimated inflation rate, an estimated return of money. If you just put this cash, this $10,100 into an investment and guess a rate of return offset against an inflation rate, you then got to discount that value back to today's cost and then multiply, and then work out when that breaks even with $149 a month, possibly presuming you have to factor in inflation, presuming that the actual subscription rate stays steady. So it's actually significantly more than 5.5 years. It could be as many as 8 or 9 or 10 years, depending on your assumptions. And
So
in that
Harold,
case,
when I did the numbers, assuming a 10% rate of return and assuming the $149 stays fixed and doesn't go up, it's a 8.25 year payback period, I think, from memory, and assuming 3%, it's 6.25.
right. And yeah, so like I've said, and I said last week, my only concern with us dumb humans is that a lot of people will slap down the $10,100. They'll pay it back in their next credit card statement. It'll hurt for then, and then they would have forgotten it thereafter. Whereas people do get reminded of the $149 every month, and they may wonder to themselves, how much did I use my card last month? Is it really worth it? Blah, blah, blah. But, and again, we're in this transition period where possibly within 5 years' time, FSD might be free, and maybe some short time after that, it might be mandatory for a new car to be sold to have effectively FSD of some sort, as has happened in the past with ABS, etc. So we really don't know. This is really a transition period more than the status quo, even though it's all very new for us. It won't look so new in by the end of this decade. So we'll just have to see what happens. Mike, you got your hand up.
Hi, everybody. Yes, Harold, you mostly on the ball there. Me and a couple of other chaps were having this very discussion after Ryan made a comment. I can't see why anybody would splash out the 10 grand. Well, there are a few small usage cases for certain people, such as myself, for example, where it is more effective to splash it out. So if we use the Elon analogy for bitting it down to like a 2-bit or a 4-bit thing, because the bit that you didn't mention, I know you weren't trying to mention everything, is that if you're buying a new car, say, lease every 3 years, you also have to factor in that depreciation loss each time, if you like, on transfer, and that's a chunk. That's probably more significant than, say, an optimistic 10% if you're a good investor, or a reasonable 7% if you're an average investor. But if you keep your car like I've done for my last two, which is approximately 20 years each, then it definitely pays to pay up front. So using that 2-bit, 4-bit, 16-bit analogy, I reckon if you did a round number of 10, it's somewhere between 8 and 12 probably, depending on what you say the depreciation number is, because the depreciation actually wipes everything off the page almost. Because if you say
Exactly.
it's like my car was 2 years old and was 30,000 depreciation, right? So now it's 3 years old and there's 25-ish. So, and you do that, like, let's say compare it with 10 years, you might get 3 lease periods during that time, as in lease of the car as opposed to the rent. So look, it's just, I think it does make sense to rent it in general for most people, because most people, or most users, not necessarily most people, most users will be leasing in some form or others, but us retirees don't get that luxury in general.
Yep.
So,
And the thing too is, on a bit of news or good news, Tesla has released 3 different patents, and I'm not going to go anywhere near them, but they are
Yes.
very advanced maths techniques.
Full on.
Actually, some are quite simple, and
Yes.
and one big challenge is you've got relatively sort of difficult numbers to deal with. You're talking about resolution and precision. You're talking mostly about 32-bit numbers.
Yep.
Don't worry if you don't know what that really means, but it just means you can get a lot of resolution or precision out of those numbers. Multiplying them together is actually, well, you need 32-bit architecture. It's expensive in compute time and resources and hardware on the chip required to do all this sort of stuff. And bearing in mind, a lot of these calculations are done in parallel, so we're not talking about just one calculator. We're talking about probably thousands. And Tesla has well, they have adopted what actually used to be well before my time, so probably more my father's era, was if you wanted to multiply 2 numbers together, you would just convert them to a logarithm, and you do that with a log chart, which used to be in the back of your logbook, or actually in your book of logs. And then to multiply them, you simply add them together, which is the definition of multiplication when you've taken a logarithm, and then get the anti-log or the exponent of that, invert it back, and there's your answer. In fact, slide rules sort of can do that as well. So they are applying that to the compute, and they're doing a whole lot of other interesting encoding things. One of the challenges in AI neural networks is it's useful for the car to have a memory of what happened, say, up to 30 seconds ago, because it can be relevant with decisions it needs to make in the next 5 seconds. And they call that the context window. And if you're doing all this maths multiplication and you're trying to keep all this data and all the answers, it becomes an exponential nightmare, and it just gets out of control. And basically the cars start hallucinating, or any of these models start hallucinating, because they just lose that memory and that context. But by jamming it down large numbers into logarithms, they basically can shrink down this information and compress it a lot more effectively. And it's quite cheap to do resource-wise. And the long and the short of it is, the chances of hardware of Tesla being able to get an effective version of version 14 Lite into a hardware 3 car is increasing dramatically. And again, it makes sense because Tesla has a very big economic pressure to do this incentive, because for all of those people of hardware 3 that have actually purchased FSD, Tesla has always guaranteed, no matter what it takes, those cars will be given that feature, and it will be capable of unsupervised driving, which is a very high bar. So again, these last few, I think it was 3 patents that were issued about a week ago, just further that sort of effort.
Yep.
So yeah,
So,
Mike. So yeah, it's going to be good. And it will happen. And I think getting back to the previous statement of when will version 14 come to Australia, and the answer was sometime in the next 6 months. I think it's plausible that that will occur for hardware 3 as well.
yes, I was going to say, can you see slightly through my stealth mode that I'm turning a little bit shade of blue because I'm holding my breath for hardware 3 FSD for, let's say,
yeah,
Q3, 4 next year, maybe? Because
next year.
somebody
No,
was
no,
posting,
This
no,
year.
no.
somebody
I
was
think in
posting
6.
today. Yeah, somebody was posting today Q2 for this is hardware for hardware 3 vehicles, not hardware 4 vehicles, right?
Look, I think 6 months. I reckon if you keep your expectations to say 6 months, so let's call it. Oh, that's Q2. Okay, sorry. Yes. Okay,
Yeah,
middle of the year. Let's
Yeah,
call
but
it
I'm thinking
winter.
maybe, it always drifts a bit. And you know how it went. We were imminently releasing FSD S here for 6 months, as we were all noticing, and it took a little bit longer than we were expecting. So,
That's
if you take Q3, Q4 this
So
year.
I'm on my way.
So, yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting year for all sorts of things, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Look, absolutely. And we had Jason Calacanis, I think that's right, basically saying, he had personally gone to the Optimus lab on a Sunday morning. I think it was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and he said he was surprised to see how many engineers were on site working on Optimus. He had said that he saw Optimus 3. That's something that Tesla has not yet revealed. And he basically said that in the future, no one will remember that Tesla ever built cars. It'll all be about Optimus. So getting to exciting things, Mike, that's, and in fact, there's something else. That's a great segue. So Optimus is the next thing that's coming around the corner. Further to that, Suleiman Gori did a great interview as an ex-AI employee, an engineer, although now, as a result of that interview, he is now an ex-AI. He's a double ex-AI employee. And one of the things he revealed was that they realized that the Optimus, let's call it the neural network that runs Optimus, that's great for running a physical version of Optimus, which is going to, mow your lawn and do your dishes and other things and whatever. But an equally or possibly even faster to implement version of Optimus is actually just using let's call it Optimus's brain in a virtual network to actually perform tasks directly in a metaphysical case, so such as on computer networks. So effectively replacing white collar workers and things like that. And the challenge that XAI had was, well, how do we get 1 million of these virtual Optimus brains happening? How do we do that? And you could go to AWS or Oracle or other what do they call them? Hyperscalers and data centers, and load all of these versions of Optimus onto them at great expense. What they did find out is that Tesla's hardware 4 or AI 4 chips in the cars, so they are all of the Model 3 Highland cars, and certainly all the Junipers and some of the later classic Model Ys that have AI 4, the ones that run true FSD at the moment, those cars can very effectively run an entire version of Optimus on them, and they can do this when the car is not being used. And Suleiman said, well, actually, the cars aren't being used, over 80% of the time. So what XAI could do is engage with Tesla owners with their permission, and at XAI's cost, run effectively jobs on the car. And he sort of indicated that XAI could, for example, pay the lease payment for the car in return for having compute cycles executed on it, because he explained that obviously the car has its own energy source and cooling, and it's got the compute, and it's well connected to the internet. So that was something that Elon Musk sort of off the cuff, or sort of, I wouldn't say dismissively, but in a sort of futuristic sense said, oh, maybe he was implying in the deep future, maybe this is something that we could do, because after all, he was sort of saying tongue in cheek that the car's computer might get bored when it's just not driving around. But it seems to have come to pass that with XAI realizing that Virtual Optimus can be run on cars sort of today, that option, at least in some markets, might come into fruition quite soon, which hopefully XAI realizes there's some scope for that in Australia. And, Mike, to your point, if you're retired and you don't drive the car much, what a wonderful thing, especially if you've got solar power, is for Tesla to offer, hey, Mike, we'll pay you
A couple of months of
10,
MSD,
10 well, yeah, or $10 an hour perhaps for compute, or whatever the metric
whatever
is,
it is. Yeah.
providing it's obviously a fair bit more than just the power cost. Anyone that owns a car sitting, and of course it's a little bit like people used to do crowdfunding or crowdsourcing of what was it called? Folding at home and SETI at home. You used to just donate your clock cycles when your computer was in screensaver mode. It would then ramp up and do distributed networking and tasks, compute tasks. And at that time, it was all done for free. Now, if Tesla or XAI offers to pay you money for it while the car's sleeping, and the point is, as soon as you hop in your car, that stops, and then you just drive off. So it's a win-win. And yeah, I mean, it's just another innovation that looks like it's coming around the corner.
And it's going to be interesting because, the reason I sort of commented, one of the reasons, and looking at the faces I can see on the screen, and no disrespect to everybody, we're all getting on a bit, and there's going to be more of us getting on a bit around with vehicles that might not necessarily drive that far. And that bulge of shall we say, people born in the 50s and 60s is going to come through, and if we are reasonably healthy, we'll go for a while. And these vehicles are going to be, and there'll be a lot of them that can be utilized in that way. Same reason I'm waiting for vehicle to grid and stuff to come into this country sometime in the next couple of years, for the same reason. There'll be quite a few, shall we say, I'll use the word pension or whatever word you want to use, but retired people, whatever you want to say, who are in that use case like myself.
Well, the thing too is, it's not just that. For those people that are working, their cars are in the daytime when they're parked at work.
Yes.
That's the thing is, it's a reason why there's a peak hour in the morning and one in the evening, and sort of nothing much in between. Outside those hours is because most of the time the cars aren't driven outside of peak hour in many cases, and you've got multi-story car parks full of them during the daytime. And of course, you got car garages and carports full of them at night time. So, except for maybe an hour each way, each end of the day, even busy families, their cars are basically sitting doing nothing. And if you can convert that into a bit of cash, and it could be surprising. So, again, there's a parallel. Tesla is not just in parallel with Apple. It's also it's going to become parallel with Amazon, whereby everyone thought it was a bookstore, an online bookstore. In fact, that's what it was. And even then, after that, it sort of evolved into an online superstore of every sort of thing in logistics. But that itself wasn't the big money spinner. It was the result of them knowing that there's seasonal variation in people hammering their website to order things, that they had to buy a lot of it surplus compute just for those peak hours, and then they wondered what would they do with the surplus compute all the other times, and they realized that they should start up a little branch called Amazon Web Services, which is actually by vast majority the biggest money spinner that Amazon has. So it's quite plausible that Tesla and its owners, actually, Tesla owners, can partake in distributed computing, and it could be a non-trivial amount of money, and it could approach the holding cost of the car, which would be well fantastic. And even if it's only a small portion of the holding cost, it's still a great help. It's like manna from heaven, and it costs you nothing.
Do you think it's possible?
Oh, sorry,
Go, Cameron.
I was going to say, do you think it's possible that the taxi network might be a thing in Australia?
You mean
Down the track.
robotaxi?
Yeah.
Dead set cert.
Yep.
Nothing could be.
And then put your car on the network to help the traffic.
That's not dead set cert, but it's absolutely plausible, and it's
if you feel
it's
like
on it's on the
giving your
verge.
car out to,
Yeah, it's.
you know, the
I think
public.
I think it's probably more than 50-50. So Tesla or Elon Musk has already said, I think it was in the annual general meeting, I think it was, or maybe it was someone else. There are quite a lot of steps, or it might have been in the in the last earnings call. And by the way, the next earning call is in about a week's time. In fact, it's literally in a week's time, tomorrow week. One thing Tesla has to think about very carefully is it's not just as simple to say, hey, like at Uber, you just select your car to be now available. Because obviously, while the car is driving and the way it does drive is at Tesla's risk, because effectively Tesla's driving the car. So if there's an accident, it's all on Tesla's insurance, not yours, because you don't have any control of what the car does when it's a robotaxi. But one of the significant risks, and it's not at all trivial, it's a serious risk, is the mechanical condition of your car when it's being used by Tesla, because Tesla can't sight your car. They can't see it. They don't know what condition it's in. And you may say, well, that's ridiculous. The car's under warranty, blah, blah, blah. Well, the biggest vulnerability and the biggest point of failure are the tires. And like we've said in this program many times, particularly if you've got a classic Model Y, and in particular a classic Model Y Performance, do check the extreme inner edge of your tires, because if they're more than about 60,000 kilometers in use, I'll bet London to a brick that the very inner edge is down to near the belts and possibly
London
beyond.
to a brick is totally correct. And what do you recommend for standing up the tyres to have a positive camber?
Well, I personally went to Mountain Pass Performance. I think that's what they're called. They're in America, and
Right.
for about 600 Australian dollars imported a camber kit, adjustable camber kit. It's just one arm. It's one of the whatever suspension arms that, rather than being a fixed length, has a adjustable rod, threaded rod, and whatever. And then I just
So
went to
I
went to a suspension place and got them to fit it, and that literally fixed it overnight. I will get back to everyone with the Junipers. My car's only done 47,000 Ks, and the tyres look, this is on a Juniper, and they look pretty good. Maybe in another month or so, I might get another 20,000 Ks on it, and we'll see how that would be towards the end of the life of the tyres, the natural life. But at the moment, touch wood, it looks pretty good. But time will tell.
Cameron, one thing I saw regarding the rear camber, a chap was fiddling with his suspension, and he was able to get some adjustment by making sure that the relevant bolts in the relevant holes were at their most extended extent to minimize the camber. So he was trying, does that make sense? So there is some play in the bolt holes, and
Yeah,
that's
so it makes
enough to potentially help, because basically his two rear wheels were not identical. So,
Yep.
well, they should be. So he played around with it for a bit, and he found that for whatever reason, one of them wouldn't get there. So he just got a, what do you call it? I'll use the word Dremel, but obviously it's not a Dremel. And just, it was like 0.5 mil grind on that, didn't affect it structurally, and it made them both equal. So one thing people can do is make sure when you have it in at Tesla next is that the adjustment, or you could go to a third party probably, and make sure the adjustment is at its maximum extent that the holes will allow in the right direction, obviously.
Yeah, the other thing you can do too is add a little bit of toe in, which the problem is the wheels basically are like that, and you can literally see it, especially on a classic. They're splayed out, so then they touch the inner edge. So when the tires, rather than the tires being flat, they're actually like this when they touch the ground, and the inner edge is what actually contacts the ground first.
Also, probably doesn't help that I'm running 295s instead of the stock 275s.
Well, no, yeah, that's right. It kind of exaggerates it slightly. That's right.
Yeah.
But if you add a bit of toe in, so then you've got, rather than your tires being like this, they sort of go like this, and it rolls. It's sort of
pushes itself in.
It's kind of sort of like then trying to ride onto the outside, because it's kind of riding it in, and that does help. It might mean you wear more tire tread, but less. The problem with the tire tread is whichever, even if there's a tiny slither that's worn down too much, your tire's gone. You don't care if you waste or use twice as much of the rest of the tire, as long as the vulnerable bit wears in half the time, in twice the time. So but like I said, this camber kit fixes it, and it's not something unusual to Tesla. If you see an AMG Merc or a M series BMW, they're even worse. And the suspension people will say, if you get 20,000 Ks out of those high performance cars, you're lucky. It's just because that's just the way they get Tron-like cornering on at high speeds. So yeah. Alrighty. Any other questions or comments?
Well, as far as that computer, use is, if I was going away for a couple of months, I'd much rather have my car plugged in and fill your boots Tesla, rather than using it on the road as a cab.
Yep.
Yeah, because you're not getting any wear and tear on your car at all. So that'd be a marvelous thing.
Yeah, exactly. And the great thing is there effectively is no wear, because it's just a CPU and they run for decades. And you're not using a battery either, because what Tesla would actually do is your charger would just draw, the car would just draw the equivalent in wattage that the computer is consuming anyway. So it's just a win-win. It's,
That'd be good.
Yes, indeed. It might mean that a lot of people lose their white-collar jobs because of all these Teslas doing all these compute cycles. But hey, if you're at least, it's going to happen anyway. And if it's going to happen, and if you can get a small clip of it along the way, all the better.
A Tesla pension.
Well, it's almost like it's the CES, or your own car becomes your own CES office, because you've lost your job, but your car's earning money. But hey, I mean, when that happens, the marginal cost of everything will reduce to its material cost.
Yeah.
So even though we'll all be poor, we'll all be able to afford whatever we want. Hopefully. Unless you've got 1 or 2 Tesla shares, and then you'll be okay.
That's another thing.
Not financial advice, but many people have said, don't sell your Tesla shares, kids, unless you really have to. But don't lever them up, and don't do margin stuff, because trust me, kiddies, that can end very badly.
how are you guys? And again, not financial advice, but just like your comments. How are you dealing with the foreign exchange risk with this? Because I
Don't
I
bother
know
with it.
people that got severely hammered back in the 80s. That's all.
Yeah,
If
so
anything, it's a bit beneficial at the moment.
so
Yes.
Mike, you recall a year about the turn of the no, yes, about the turn of the century
Mhm.
or the millennia even. The Aussie dollar went down to 48 US cents, which is great if you own foreign assets such as shares. And then in about 2013-14, the Aussie dollar crossed over and became worth more than the US dollar, which was
1982.
no,
Briefly.
yeah, but 2013 or 14 or
Yeah, about that.
round about that time, it returned back up to higher than the US dollar. It was about, I think it went up to $1.07, maybe as much as that, or $1.03 at least, which is fantastic if you're buying assets. The thing is, Mike, let's say the true trading range is in extreme is say $1 US, which is great for us, down to 50 cents.
65. Mm.
Oh, we're now at 65, 67 at the moment, but let's say 67. So let's say it goes down to 50 cents. That, once you've bought all your Tesla shares, hopefully for $1 US, an exchange rate of $1, which it's not at the moment, and then you held them for 10 years, and then for whatever reason, some economic crisis or something, the Australian dollar goes down to 50 cents, then you've effectively doubled your money. And I don't want this to sound weird, but it will sound weird. A mere 50% in value change either way, by the end of this decade, would look like a rounding error compared to the upside potential, notwithstanding volatility that Tesla can experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Yep.
Not
and
financial
you may
advice.
kick yourself,
no,
not financial advice. So you may kick yourself that, say, if if you buy 500 Tesla shares or 1,000 Tesla shares or 100 Tesla shares today, yes, it will make, if Tesla's share price, it's now approximately, well, it's come
It's
down a bit. Let's call it $420 a share.
Mm.
If it gets to, say, $4,000 a share, well, it will still have made a big difference whether you got half as many or twice as many today as you otherwise could have. But as far as your lifestyle is concerned, or how you feel about that value, it'll pale into insignificance compared to the capital gain or what the potential capital gain that those shares will experience. So it's the same as.
Interested in what your thought process was.
You can't. No, it's useless. That's the same as gambling on the forex trade. I mean, it's anyone that thinks that they know how to play forex.
No.
Anyone that says they've won money playing on forex, well, it's the same as anyone will tell you that last night they got $1,000 on blackjack. They always tell you about the times they beat the system, not when all the other times the system beat them. So, no, don't worry about forex. It's just pointless. There's certainly a logic to buying Tesla shares if you believe Tesla's story, and I dare say most of us in the room probably do believe Tesla's story and its potential. And I think the biggest risk of many people is you need to do your research to understand that this is not a car company. It's not a robo-taxi company, which hasn't even been, it's now just the analysts are starting to sort of realize that there's a bit of potential there. But none of the analysts have spoken about Optimus, and none of them have spoken about data centers in orbit and all the chips that Tesla's going to make. And the thing is, it all sounds outlandish until it's not. And back in 2014, Elon Musk spoke about having thousands of SpaceX satellites forming a constellation that he called Starlink, and that somehow you could have internet from space when everyone else was used to geostationary satellites with pings of of 1 second.
Ooh.
And of course, anyone that knows data, it's not about the download or upload speed. It's about the ping, which is how long does it take from making a request to getting the answer back, because that's what really counts. It was outlandish that you could, for once, actually launch thousands of your own satellites when the average satellite launch cost $100 million. So that was 11 years ago. Sorry, 11/12 years ago. Now Starlink has, I think, nearly 8,000 satellites. They're building at least 22,000 dishes per day, because that's how many customers they're adding per day, 22,000. So, you sort of go, well, at first Tesla was just the cars, and then robo-taxis, but FSD will never happen. Now it's happening. Then it's Optimus. Well, that's going to be super hard, but I mean, it's now starting to happen. And of course, you think, well, the data centers in space, that just doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. But Elon Musk has got an unblemished record of making the impossible merely late. And it's going to be a very different world in the next half a decade. And in 10 years, anything we predict will just be outlandishly out of step on the low side. We will underestimate the advancements that are going to come just around the corner.
Can I ask a
Just
Starlink
like the
question?
energy, 10 gigs to, or 14 gigs to 140 gigs in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So go, Mike, again.
So I've been thinking about getting a Starlink connection here. I'm in Metro Perth, right? And there's been a few posts saying, it's $69 for a 100 megabit service. But whenever I try and do something via the Starlink site, I can only get an option for the top of the range plan. I can't get an option for the lower plan. And of course, there's the $1,314 congestion charge. So firstly, can you actually select the lower plan, or because I'm in the metro area, they just won't give it to me?
So the first thing, that the executive summary is, you're in Perth, just get NBN.
Oh yeah,
To be
I've got
honest.
NBN. I've got
So-
NBN. I just fancied the Starlink,
Oh yeah, but okay. So if you fancy Starlink, at the
Yeah.
moment, Starlink have changed all their pricing and all their stuff. So,
Yes.
for example, if we go to the Starlink website, if you look at residential and you click Get Started, and why isn't that worked? Here we go. I'm just going to put 1 St. George's Terrace. Here we go. Terrace.
Yep.
Because I don't want to dox myself. And then what you get is ships in 1 to 2 weeks. It's free, 0 cost.
See,
Right.
I don't get
No.
that.
No,
I
you do
don't
get
get
that
that.
because no, Mike, just go to starlink.com,
Yep.
put it in like this. Actually, it's even got my account there. There I am, HM.
That's the problem. I'm not logged in as an account. That's why
Doesn't
it's
matter.
different.
It won't matter. I don't think it'll matter, to be honest. Well, I could stand to be corrected. I won't try and log out. Now,
Yeah,
the
just
thing
let me do it.
is, well, actually, let me just log myself out and see if it works. So I've signed out. Here we go. Do you no? Yes, I want to sign out. Okay. Right. So let me try that again. I'll get started.
Yep.
No,
So I
this
do
is
not
gonna
get
work.
that. When I click
So
it in, I get all the
one-
residential screen.
1 St. George's Terrace. Now you'll notice I'm not logged in. So I now get started. And what it'll say, so residential, you can get, oh, come on, here we go.
That's
there.
exactly what I get.
Oh, right.
So what I'm asking is, And when you look at, if you click on, see where the blue congestion charge is, if you click on the down arrow, you can see that it's stuck on
Demand
residential max.
surcharge.
Yep.
So firstly, there's that, but also it's residential max, and I don't want residential max. I just want residential, which is 69 a month, and I can't seem to select that. Was my question.
Yeah, right.
So
Okay.
maybe I've got to create an account and log in, Harold.
Yeah, possibly. Oh, sorry, Mark. I'm just going to have to mute you because I just got myself back in that on your audio. Yeah, okay. I'm not. Yeah, maybe you could try and log in or create an account. Okay, I do stand corrected. I'm sorry, Mike. But basically, you get a free Starlink dish, but you might have to already have a service. So, look, an alternative is if you know someone, a family member that's got Starlink, then they could just buy it for you because I do work elsewhere. At the moment, Starlink are offering residential ones for free. If you want the roaming service, you have to pay for a mini, which is about $500-ish to get the roaming service.
Yeah,
But to be honest,
go on.
it's not worth it for house internet because you can get an NBN plan, particularly if you've got fibre to the home or even fibre to the curb. That's effectively equally as quick and much cheaper. But I know that a hell of a lot of people, if you drive up and down the Albany Highway, an increasing number of cars have Starlink minis sitting on their dash because people are just sick of having crappy mobile service on the road.
Yeah.
So that's really the killer app is mobility. Oh, and if you're in a remote area. And when I say remote, it could even be Lesmurdy or something where you've got crappy NBN, or you're in some places where Telstra's got crappy copper because a lot of internet is fed to houses through copper, through fibre to the node. So you're still fighting the last several hundred meters to your house. And
no, we've been on 100 for ages. I just felt like getting a Starlink. But I saw what attracted me was one of the plans, it gave you a free mobile as well as the hardware, the main hardware.
Mobile phone, you mean?
No. So a mobile Starlink free with the plan,
a mini.
One of those residential plans.
Yep. And it's funny because, a mini doesn't have to be mobile. A mini approaches 200 megabits per second, just as the mini. It's actually as good as the bigger dishes used to be. So a mini is, you shouldn't think of a mini as an inferior product. You could just use that as your house, as your main internet, and it'll still be faster than most NBN services in general, especially the fiber to the node. Definitely.
I just like the idea from a independent, because I'll put a UPS on it, and I don't think they draw much power, or it'd actually plug it into the Tesla, whatever.
Well, in fact, the mini actually only draws 21 watts.
Yeah,
it's remarkably
we use
low.
our power here all the time, and then when it
don't you live near the supercharger, Mike?
Yes,
that's why. It's always Tesla's charging a Karen up.
No,
they keep blacking out the suburb.
Western Power are going around changing all the poles, but there's so many to change. It's like, and they're pretty good about it, but like every quarter you lose it for an entire day.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Not ideal.
I'm hogging the thing here, but I've got another question, if I may. Tell me no if that's fine. Did people see the post on X from somebody called Genma_JP, who did an article regarding vision versus the other things for FSD? Did anybody catch that other than me? Okay.
No, what's the executive summary?
Have an X account. It's a person. They're. I suppose I can put the link in chat.
That was the guy that worked at Rivian.
I don't know where they work. They certainly were a worker, if that makes sense. But it was the most. It was obviously wasn't a concise article, but it did seem to make a lot of sense. Let's see if this goes in. And if I go send, oh, there you go. So that's the link there, if you can see in the old chat box.
Yeah, let me, if there's a photo of him, I'll recognise him straight away once it comes up.
The article picture had like a Tesla with a brain above it, the picture above the article. It was called the Fusion Crutch, etc.
Yes, why a 15-year sensor fusion expert bet everything on Tesla's vision.
It was an excellent article for anybody who says Teslas will never work because they're all vision. It was really quite well done, I thought. So I just thought I'd put it in the group.
Yep, that's just hopefully come up now. So, yeah, no worries. Genma_JP as the name, or
the handle.
Yeah, whatever that weird handle.
But as you said, they used to work in this area. So this, I mean, unless this is a fib, which wouldn't have thought so. But it was quite interesting, some of the concepts that they said about people think that the LiDAR radar, I'll use that term, LiDAR radar loosely, but they actually think it's better. And the article was saying, for the exact reason you think it's better, it's not. So it's worth a read.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the thing is, LiDAR, and Elon Musk has said this in the past, I mean, LiDAR has its uses. The gentleman that has driven more than 12,000 miles, literally exclusively on FSD, provably, without a single intervention whatsoever, from home to work to road trips to everything, shops, whatever. He actually sells, he's a supplier or a agent for LiDARs, but that's for geospatial scanning. And at that, they are exemplary. I mean, they're essential. But they are still basically bouncing photons off objects, which is exactly what happens when we see things, except the photons don't come from our eyes, hit the object and come back like they do in LiDAR. They come from somewhere else and go into our eyes. But they're just as vulnerable to intense rainfall and snowfall and similar things. And I mean, radar's diabolical because an unfortunately placed aluminium can on the side of the road, say the bottom of it, which is dished, can make something that's the size of a cricket ball appear the size of a car, and there's no real way of knowing what the truth is. And I think, and Elon Musk has explained this many times, the problem with fusion is, if there is dissonance between the two sources, if one doesn't agree with the other, well, which one do you believe? Because at any point in time, there's an argument that you should believe the opposite one. And you don't know which one's correct. And all it does is add, well, you've got to decide, what do you do then? Do you presume the worst? In which case, every deviance will just become a problem. And if you presume the best, well, then why are you even looking for the worst case? Like, it's kind of pointless. So, look, the classic thing is time will tell. And at the moment, Tesla appears to be dead right. And I guess we're all going to find out. And of course, there's nothing wrong if it's pouring down with rain or pouring down with snow or whatever it is, that the cars slow down. I mean, normal humans do that too, and should. So there's nothing wrong with a robotaxi going super slow in an intense rainstorm or a snowstorm or a blizzard, or potentially sometimes going, you know what, it's actually safe not to drive right now. That's acceptable too. So yes. I think a lot of these so-called analysts that want to compare things, and there was a gentleman, I think from Waymo. Yep. I'm not sure if he's still at Waymo.
No,
he was saying, was that Paul?
Ex-CEO of Waymo?
Yes.
He's dribbling on about megapixels and other crap.
Well, he was talking about the Flavia. Is it the Flavia? Something like that in your eye. So human vision, like there's heaps of YouTube videos saying, how do you compare human vision with a 10 or 12 megapixel camera? And of course, it's kind of the wrong comparison because the acuity of I think it's fovea, it's a tiny section, which apparently if you get your thumb at arm's length, it's the size of your thumb is the range of vision whereby you actually have very good vision. And if you equated that to a camera that could see everything equally, I think it needs about 150 megapixels, which is just impractical. But the thing is, because our eyes and brain relies on the fact our eyes move around, and apparently if you do a little exercise such as stare at an image or at the outside, at anything in the world, and you rely on your peripheral vision to see all the other objects without moving your eyes, very quickly your brain sort of like effectively forgets what the high resolution version of that image is, and you struggle to even work out what color all of your peripheral objects are, and you've got no chance of working out what's going on. And the only reason why you think you do is because you do incessantly look around, and your brain basically convinces you or itself that everything's good because you only really have to look intensely at something that's got your attention, such as in the olden days, a leopard or a lion or something. The rest is immaterial. It just doesn't matter. So the thing with the car vision is it's generally a lower resolution than the best resolution of our eyes, but it's uniform and it's 360 all at once. And the latency is nothing, whereas we all live several hundred milliseconds in the past. And again, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, look at those YouTube videos and do some Googling. Our brain is wonderful at actually making multiple time frames all apparently line up, even though they actually don't. So the cars never get tired. They never get bored. They never get upset. Their performance in the long term is deadly consistent, whereas we're completely not that way.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But yeah, certainly interesting.
That article, for those who what is it, TLDR? For those who
yes,
there's a
too long didn't read.
Yeah, there's a 6-point summary at the front, and it's quite interesting because it says like LiDAR performs poorly in rain and stuff like that. And radar can get through the weather, but it's poor at getting good information. So it does say that 6-point summary, and it covered what you were saying. Well, it does say modern images are as good or potentially better than the human eye. So that was interesting.
Yep.
Because what you were saying, Paul, about that chap, when I saw an article on you a few days ago, he was talking about 5 megapixel cameras and going, what?
Yeah,
that's like 20 years old.
I've been saying for a while it's a scarecrow problem. If I only had a brain. Tesla has the brain, and Waymo doesn't.
Was that the scarecrow? Was it? I thought
the scarecrow doesn't have a brain. Yeah. Because you see the videos. Even Herbert showed a video today. At a construction site, and the guy has the sign, and then he indicates, turns around, indicates, car immediately goes. Waymo, they don't do shit, because it doesn't matter how good you see shit. If you don't understand it, it doesn't matter how good you are.
Yeah.
So it's like with the, when the cops have been telling the Waymos to, stop or move along or whatever, and they just sit there. It's like, oh yeah, I can see the cops there, but it doesn't understand. So it's not about sensors anymore. It's about, my car did a roundabout the other day. Never done one. And I was like, what the hell? I've got an autopilot car. I'm just going, I don't understand. Something's changed. So,
Harold's been fibbing about them not updating on the road. That's what I reckon.
I don't know.
No, don't forget, Paul's got autopilit. No, that's different.
Yeah.
That's autopilot, not FSD.
Yeah. And since I've been, hanging off, if they do that Bitpoint update for Hardware 3 cars, then I'll just pay the $149 a month.
Yes.
And since I've got extra shares and all that stuff, I think I'm way ahead. So that'll be right in the long run.
I don't know if you guys realise, but for me, because I've got EAP, my monthly payment is only 75.
Yes. It's
Yes.
Just in case people didn't know that.
So, and I actually think that price should be half again. It should be $37. Then so-called classic FSD or autopilot based should be 75 for hardware 3 owners. And obviously, yeah, it's appropriate that FSD is $149. But like I said, it still concerns me that I think a lot of people will choose not to expend that money on a monthly basis purely because it feels like a lot of money going out the door every month as opposed to a single capital purchase.
Yeah, cash flow versus capital. Yeah.
It's just people's minds. People are dumb. I mean that we're just human. It's just what humans do. We can't help it. Humans make very illogical decisions. Just ask an economist. It's just our human nature.
Yeah.
But a lot of people won't even need cars. Although that's overplayed as well. Many of us will still hold on to a car, no matter how good and cheap a robotaxi is. It's still handy if you can afford it. And let's face it, we can all afford cars at the moment, and they're not going to get dearer. Nothing beats the fact that you can hop in a car and be somewhere and go, that's right, in the boot I've got, an umbrella, or I've got a camping chair, or I keep a raincoat or something else or whatever, a blanket. You can't do that in a robotaxi because you've got to make sure anything you want you've got with you, and do your best to try not to leave it behind because you might not get it back. So, although I know in Europe, or in New York, in the United States, everyone uses taxis because there's no such thing as parking a car in New York. But for most of the rest of the world, cars are going to be a ubiquitous ownership experience, albeit maybe a household of 3 cars or 2 cars might reduce to 1, or a 4-car household might go to 2. Etc. Alrighty. Any other questions or comments?
So after the last update, my car wants to pair the Tesla card. So I drive it with the app.
Yep.
But after the update, doing a few weird things, and because I'm parking in a very narrow space, when you're going reversing into the car bay, and there is 50 centimeters either side, it freaks out. It just keeps saying stop. Very annoying.
So, Carmen, have you got the older Model 3, your original Model 3?
Yep.
Have you set it to ultrasonics or to Tesla Vision?
No, I haven't done anything, but I don't know. Where should I
Okay,
look?
so, I can't remember. Probably autopilot, or is it safety? Paul, can you please have a quick look?
I'll check.
It's either autopilot or safety. Might be autopilot. Or it might be driving, or what's it called?
Dynamics.
The normal dynamics.
No.
Paul will find it. There should be a setting. So for classic cars that have ultrasonic sensors, because the ultrasonics are usually pretty good as far as they know what's going on, and it won't freak out as much as the Tesla Vision version can. But Paul's just working on it, and he needs to hurry
Why
up.
should I have it set up?
Carmen, my Tesla
doesn't have it.
It does. So my Tesla.
Go, Mike.
I switched it to Tesla Vision. It still moans at me because I literally back against a surface and I've got something like 3 centimeters down one side and enough for me to sidle down the other side. And all the sensors are telling me to stop. So you just ignore them. You've just got to pay attention. You don't crash into something, obviously, because even when you've got it on vision, it still knows that you're inside 20 centimeters off something. So it tells you to stop, and has done for ages. And that's on vision or ultrasonics. Ultrasonics is probably more cautious because it's telling you the number, and there's actually a physical distance you can actually set on that. There is on mine anyway. I can go and have a look if you want. I'm just not in the garage.
Yeah.
Paul, have a look at autopilot. Go to autopilot, Paul.
It's not. I've gone under that. No, it's not.
What car you were sitting in?
It's 2019 Performance Model 3,
which has
I'll
sensors.
I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah.
And has it got ultrasonics, Paul?
Yep.
Oh, do you have FSD?
No.
Yeah, right.
Maybe that's what it's under then.
It's under autopilot.
Oh yeah, no, I've already checked that. Like multiple times.
Cameron says activated through the controls and autopilot menu.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Scroll
on there.
down.
Yeah. I've checked the whole thing.
Not into autopilot, in the same menu that contains autopilot and TAC and all that stuff.
Yeah,
there should be visualize. Yeah, okay.
No.
That's cool. Michael will have a look. But
Unless,
but coming in it.
Maybe
in any case,
FSD enabled.
No.
For that.
I know.
Leon, I know my wife's Model Y has that, but that's a newer car sort of stuff, but still a classic.
Right. No, mine's at 2023. So 2020, but Model 3.
2020 Model 3. Yes. Yeah. It's got ultrasonics.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it has.
Yeah.
But in any case, Carmen, I'd go with the previous comment, which was, even though the car may say stop, as long as you can see, if you're reversing, you can obviously see the rear camera, and in fact, you can actually see the side ones as well. So when you're reversing and if you only see the rear camera, flick that image up a little bit, and then you'll see the two side cameras as well, facing backwards. So you can see if there's a column or whatever.
There is. Well, unfortunately, I'm next to a grey big concrete column.
Pillar. Column.
Pillar. And when I reverse, to make sure the mirror, because the mirror doesn't fall till I've stopped, to make sure the mirror gets through between that and the next car, which is very close, and from the yellow marking, it's only about 5 centimeters.
So you can actually.
So then I've been reversing straight, but turning towards the end so that there's a little bit of space left to get out. But the first week when I drove out, I didn't swing around enough so that mirror was fine, but I scraped the back panel.
Because you're basically the back wheel goes at a smaller diameter than the front wheel. So what you can do is you can actually fold your mirrors at any time. So I'm just trying to think the easiest way to do that.
On your screen, you can just click fold mirrors under controls.
Oh, okay.
And then you can actually even set it to your location as well.
Yeah, but not when you're driving. So Carmen wants to fold the mirrors while she's reversing to get them out of the way.
Yeah, but I could stop and fold them and then drive?
Yeah, because
you can even be folding them while you're driving if you really want to. If it does let you.
You know, when the motorcycles split lanes, I always worry that they're going to clip my line, so I'll always turn it fold.
Oh, really?
Fold your mirrors. Yeah.
Okay,
And you can drive, because when you reverse, you're using your cameras anyway, so you're pretty well right.
Did you find the setting for the?
I think you need autopilot or something, mate.
It's under autopilot, second item.
Yeah, but that's under, what do you call it? You got FSD?
No, I've got EAP, enhanced autopilot.
That's what I said. So you do. Like, you got EAP. Because on mine, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's
But you
interesting.
can even, in under your controls, you can do under search settings, and you can do that like following distance. Because I've got parking, it says parking chimes and that stuff. But I know with Leonie's, hers is a slightly newer car, with a Model Y, and she's got ultrasonics and all that stuff. So, like the visualization as well. So
By the way, Carmen, you can actually, according to Cameron, you can just press your voice command. So that's
Yep.
on the right-hand side, and just say fold mirrors.
Oh, well,
So you
that's
can just
even
press and
better.
say fold mirrors.
Oh,
if
good.
it understands you, I've done
Well,
that,
it,
and I've
well,
gone, and it hasn't done it. I've gone quickly, just
well,
press it. So,
I've used it a lot for phoning, so
Yep.
it should be.
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. So just try that. Just say fold
Oh.
mirrors, and that folds them.
Okay.
And yeah,
You might be interested that I've got the third electrician coming around to give me advice about the charging issue.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
still going to Kings Park, and I now go before 9 a.m., which is very cost effective.
Yes.
So it's about 31 cents per kilowatt. So that's all reasonable. But in the meantime, the Strata now have said they heard that I had a guy poking around looking at how to solve the issue. And they said, well, I need a full report. If I'm going to get any quoting, I need to ensure that I have a design and any structural changes and permission from the fire brigade.
oh, that's
Fire
ridiculous.
brigade to do
No,
what?
I know, they're
To
just
do
stupid people
modification?
because
No.
they think that Tesla's all, they don't want a Tesla in the garage because,
Yep.
it could have a fire.
Yeah, they're morons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they're just a group of people. They have a certain mindset.
Yep.
I'm certain that 120 years ago, there were
Yep.
just a similar cohort of people talking about these ridiculous exotic things called horseless carriages,
Yes.
and yet either they or their children all had cars within the following decade.
Yeah,
So
no, look,
this is just an iteration of that
Oh,
same kind of
I'm not
behavior.
taking any notice. I'll just
No.
keep doing what I'm doing. But I have written to Landgate and copy LGIRS, the new demers. And apparently there is a law coming in May that you don't have to have a charger per bay, but you have to have a 10 amp power point. But it only applies to the new buildings.
Yes.
It's not retrospective, and it's not for
No.
my case. So they're just totally ignoring it.
Yes. So my suggestion to the West Australian government is they've had 3 rounds of the charge up program. There should be thought to having some funding to provide for retrofitting of strata of grouped accommodation.
Yep.
So that people like yourself, Carmen, there's a simple pathway to
Yes.
charging your car.
Yes.
And the WA government should realise that in order to do this, then there ought to be some external funding, whether it's dollar for dollar, whether it might actually be the government might need to step up if it is true to its advocacy of EVs, which you have to take their word for it. That's what they claim that they are intent on doing. Then the best way to demonstrate that would be to provide substantial funding for modest charging. So like you say, look, a 10 amp outlet, it's 2,400 watts. It's not a lot of power. It can very much be managed. It's not 3-phase, it's not 7 kilowatts, but
Well,
it'll charge an average car that travels 38 kilometers a day on average. It'll do that in about 3 hours.
Yeah.
So, or
Well,
less.
when I gave it a try to see what was happening, the car automatically went to 8 amps.
Yep.
Yep. So
Yep, because either the voltage
if
went
it's
down.
charged,
Yep.
if it's charged
Yep.
from 10 p.m. till the morning, it's
fine.
it's just helpful, and then I can top up once a week or do whatever. But
Yeah, that's right.
yeah,
Yep.
so it's no, well, because of the stupidity of the whole thing, I'm determined now to do it, and
Yeah.
so I'm getting around to it. So I've got someone else come in, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, they keep coming up with silly
Excuses. Yep.
And the problem is that Landgate say they have no jurisdiction. All they do is send a link to the government websites, and then LGRS have acknowledged the issue and are trying to work out what to do about it, and they will get back in touch, but nothing's happened yet.
The other approach, of course, is what happens to the new commercial tenant that owns
Yes,
or that.
Well, they're
that has,
moving out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the moment. So,
Yeah.
so I'll wait and see if that becomes viable. But yes, their mindset is so poor. I did send them links, and I sent them the regulations, and I also pointed out that now all the government departments, libraries, etc., all have some sort of charging.
Yep.
So it's a way of the future. They might as well get on with it, but they just don't
Yes,
want
but it's easy for people set in their ways to simply
Mm.
say no and to simply hide behind statements such as we're concerned about safety, liability,
Yes,
blah, blah,
yes.
blah, blah. And
Yeah. Also, the fact that when I bought the apartment, there was no charging facilities. So that's what I bought. So go elsewhere.
that's right. So it would be akin to saying, well, when this apartment was built, the internet didn't exist. This apartment was built in 1980. There was no World Wide Web then. Why do you think that we should invest in getting internet communications into this building? It's things change.
Yeah.
My father was, as a very, very young child, just remembers getting electricity fitted to a house in Williamstown in Melbourne, retrofitted to a house. So things move on, you know.
They're just grabbing at straws. But anyway, we'll continue on and see what happens. I've got, I found a sticker from an original electrician that must have wired the board. So I called him, and he came around today, and he said, look, it's complicated, but I'll do it for you. It's going to be expensive. And I said, well, first of all, I need to have something in writing anyway. So just give me your opinion. And he said, oh, I'm not going to muck around going through to the PowerPoint in the shed. I'll just put one outside. You don't have to worry about opening and shutting the door. That's silly. He said it's simple to do that. So anyway, he's looking at it at the moment.
Yeah, cool. James, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just to worry. I don't think we need to have government funding. I think the first step could be the same as they've done in Europe, and they are talking about Australia is the right to charge, is the fact that as long as you have qualified, certified, licensed electricians, and they follow the rules, you can't be stopped from installing a charger in Australia.
Your expense,
yeah, your expense. You pay for it, and as Carmen says, like if they did something structurally wrong, which they should never do, their license.
There's no need for structural changes.
No.
Only talking about wiring.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. So even because I think I personally understand what Harold was saying, that in the future it would be like a lot of low rent strata wouldn't be able to afford to do that, to support those people where they've got large things when cars become cheap. But right now, if you've got a tenant owned, or sorry, an owner that owns a strata, you should be able to stop it if you follow the rules. But unfortunately, we are. So I think that's an easier
Yeah, so
one.
well, they're
Doesn't-
just saying he needs council approval.
Yeah, which is
and
right at the
they
moment. Yeah.
And they manipulate it. If I get narky enough, I'll just do it anyway. But because it's unreasonable, so I'm giving them time to get their head around it.
Yeah.
One of the big issues I had was how to update the car, because the app tells me that I'm 19 meters away from the garage where the apartment is. But anyway, I've worked it out. So I couldn't update for a while. But now I drive the car around the front under my balcony, and I can pick up, and I've changed my Wi-Fi modem to be towards the front so that the car now gets the Wi-Fi and I can update it. Because I was about to have to go to Tesla and say, I have to come and update here because I can't get it.
Oh, actually, so Carmen, what you can do, I mean, what you've done works, so that's cool. But the other alternative is you can tether your car off your phone, your mobile phone, even when you're driving around. So what you can
it took like 3 hours to download it to my phone, and then you have to. Well, what I did is I downloaded the update to my phone, and then I was going to get the phone to upload it to the car, but this took hours.
Oh, no, that's not normally how it works. But you can, while you're driving around, you can start a hotspot on your phone. I know in an iPhone you just go start hotspot, and you got to set a password and whatever. Sometimes I've found for it to work properly, you've got to tell it to stop hotspot and then restart it, and then you find it'll say Carmen's hotspot or Carmen's iPhone or whatever. I know how to do it on iPhones. I'm sure Android is very, very similar.
No,
And so once you've done that, you can then connect your car, either if it's parked, but you might as well do it while you're driving, connect it to your phone's internet, and then if there is an update. So in fact, if there is an update that your car wants to download, you'll see an orange download icon on the upper part of your screen, and it's saying that there's a download ready to happen, but it won't ordinarily do normal downloads over the mobile phone network unless it was a safety issue, and then it will. So you'll certainly, well, it'll certainly say there's a download ready to be, or wanting to be downloaded while you're driving around. As long as you've got your car tethered to your phone, you can just use your phone's internet out and about, and then download it. And then, when you come to a stop somewhere or later the next day or whatever, you can then just say, go and install the update.
So you can actually drive while you're doing it?
Yes.
Because I sort of went to my son's.
That's to download. No, you can actually do it while you're driving, and then it will then download. That icon will change from being orange or yellowy color to being green. It'll change to a green color, and then you can just do it that way. It's funny you mentioned that you've got that challenge, because in a few years I'm going to move into an apartment whereby my car is 25 stories beneath me, and I know for a fact that the builders have never contemplated putting Wi-Fi outlets in the car park, because up until Tesla, no cars were on the internet as far as Wi-Fi is concerned. And obviously I'm going to have a battle trying to convince the builder, because they can't see a case for it. And possibly later the strata company, once that comes into place. But of course it's harder to retrofit something than it is to have it plumbed in originally. It just takes one conduit and, 3 or 4 access points per level in the car park. But that's going to be a new challenge. It's not just EV charging, it's internet.
Yes.
Because it's very useful for these cars to have internet whenever they're parked.
Well,
particularly
because there is a car bay in front of my balcony. And so after hours, I just drive around there and it's all sorted out. But the first few times it took some creativity. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to be scheming particularly if it comes to pass that my car can earn money from XAI to do virtual Optimus tasks, I'll have to scheme a way of getting internet down to the basement.
Yes.
I might have to bounce it.
I'm surprised they don't do it in the new ones.
Well, I guarantee they've got. I've seen conduits in the slab, well, before they lay the slab, that are marked with CCTV and this and that and the other, access control and whatever, and emergency lighting, carbon monoxide sensors, because sadly that's what conventional car parks need for all of the internal combustion engine cars that pollute the basements. Yeah. But I guarantee there'll be no ubiquity or whatever internet hotspots. Sorry, I think, Mike, you said there's a solution to that?
Just a quickie, and you being your electronic person that you are, this will be all too easy for you. So look up tin can tenor. So tin can tenor, as in antenna and tin can tenor. So me and my mate, we built a 3-kilometre antenna out of a tin can and a piece of copper wire and a suitable cable to a suitable router modem, of course. So you've got to have a suitable modem that you can put an output from onto. And because he had a shared Telstra crappy copper connection, and I had a nice cable connection. So literally he was 3 kilometres away on the other side of the hill. So we just put 2 tin can antennas on the roof and we shared. He got the thing.
Unfortunately, Mike, that does require line of sight.
Yes, it does require line of sight.
Unfortunately,
that'd be no problem for Harold.
No, Mike. Mike, my internet will be 66 meters up in the air.
Yes.
And my car will be 25 layers of reinforced concrete beneath it, directly beneath.
You just have to park it on the street, like Carmen, while you're doing this, and have the antenna.
No. But if I'm not going to park on the street every day because I can't. No, if I get Optimus tasks to do, I need internet all the time, mate.
Yes, fair enough.
So I'm going to have to scheme. I mean, look, I can probably do it with just a 4G Wi-Fi hotspotty thingy. Just use 4G instead, because mobile phone towers are all over the place.
I tried with 5G and it didn't work.
No, 5G is rubbish, Carmen, because you're in an underground car park. Yeah, 5G. Well, depending, it just doesn't get the penetration, and it's usually oversubscribed because, sadly,
marketing.
No, it's. Look, I had this with iiNet a few years ago. My house has got fibre to the house, so I'm currently on 1 gigabit per second, pure fibre, and I was getting it through iiNet at the time because they were reselling the NBN service, because NBN has a monopoly. Sorry, not monopoly, but the normal fibre network is run by NBN. You can get other networks, but the standard one is NBN. So iiNet offered a cheaper deal on my fibre if I take up, I think it was either 5G or 4G, an internet dongle, wireless, which as an engineer I know is madness, because when you broadcast something to the air, everyone is listening and everyone is talking, and there's a very much a limit of bandwidth. So unfortunately, in urban areas, too many people are just getting wireless dongles and saying that that's my home internet, which is madness when you can get a piece of glass going right to your house, which has almost unlimited bandwidth. So yeah, unfortunately, and if you're in a concrete structure, it's not the concrete. Actually, concrete does hurt wireless as well, but it's all the reinforced steel. Sorry, the steel reinforcing that kills your signal.
Yeah. Oh.
So
I ended up. I swapped the modem. I had 5G, and I said I'm not happy with it. Do something. So I said I want the building is prepared for NBN. So I want you to give me NBN. So I upgraded to the NBN from 5G.
Yep.
And then I moved the modem in different places.
Yep.
And as it turned out, in front of the balcony works because I've got a TV unit there. And
Yep.
It's very close to where I can park.
Yes. Yeah.
outside.
Right. Yep. Yep.
So that worked.
Yeah.
But 5G
Yep.
was terrible.
Yes. Yeah. You can often be on a phone or a device and have full bars of 5G and basically get effectively zero internet, whereby you might open PlugShare and it doesn't even show the map.
Yep.
Or it doesn't. It just.
I did the test, the speed test, and it
Yep.
was 0.25.
Yeah, it's just nuts. Yeah, that's right. It's just a limitation of wireless networks.
Yeah.
You know, which is why to cover the Earth with internet, as SpaceX has done, you need 8,000 satellites.
Yep.
And you know, that's just what happens. So anyone that says wireless is better than hard line like copper or well, Ethernet or fiber is at leave of their senses. They just don't understand the fundamentals of communications. But
you need 52,000 satellites, Harold.
well,
that's what he's
and they're
striving for.
Yeah, that's right. That exactly. And you know, Terry, the scary thing is that apparently, if
5
communications, but if communications is lost on a significant number of satellites for a mere 3 days, then the Kessler syndrome is all but certain. And then it just wrecks it for hundreds of years, for hundreds of years. So it's going to be very interesting. Interestingly enough, SpaceX actually lowered the orbits of most of their constellation by 70 kilometers because the sun is getting into a lesser active phase. Although notably last night and even tonight, I don't know if anyone can see, probably everyone's in a bright light, but apparently there might be some spectacular auroras because there was a coronal mass ejection yesterday. Yep. So, and that can actually affect satellites. So Starlink did have a launch of 20 or whatever it was satellites that all got burnt up in the atmosphere because there was a solar event. These satellites weren't yet high enough. The atmosphere basically expanded and then dragged them lower, and they lost control of them and they burnt up and they binned several $1 million worth of satellites into the atmosphere.
The interesting part is when they start falling down after 5 years being up there. That's the interesting part.
Yeah, SpaceX has actually said that they deliberately designed the satellites so that the vast majority of the actual satellite vaporizes in the upper atmosphere, and any other bits they try and guarantee a maximum survivability size so that at worst it would just hit you at terminal velocity, which is a couple of 100 kilometers an hour. And if it's the size of a little stone, it's not lethal. It's obviously upsetting, but not lethal.
Still hurt.
That's right. Exactly. All right.
Harold,
Yes, James.
for back to Carmen's Strata thing, and anybody else with the Strata, there was an update to the Strata Act in 2022, which while it does make it a little bit easier. So in 2022, the Strata Act was updated to allow sustainability.
Yes.
And the basic rules are there that if it's kind of sustainability and it's been tested that EV charging is within that. So it's the 2022 Strata Reform Act.
Yeah, I've looked at it.
Yep. And basically what it helps you, it doesn't clear everything. What it helps you is that it no longer has to be unanimous. It only has to be 50% or greater votes in favour of it. So and remember, so if you go to an AGM and you get all people to vote, you might have more luck, or the council. And where the Strata company or the Strata is refusing, the refusal has to pass a reasonableness test.
Yes, I know.
So they must act reasonably, objective grounds, can't be
Well, they
arbitrary.
lie. They just
Yeah.
say the building is not ready, even though two people.
No, they can't say that.
can't.
You provide them, as long you do have to. You would provide them a electrics thing from your electrician, a fire thing from the same, and basically that's it. A licensed electrician, make sure it's compliant, fire certification if needed, it says in the guidance, load management, and a separate way it's going to be separately metered, but it's coming from yours. So it doesn't mean it makes it easier because their refusal can't be arbitrary, and it can't just be because they don't want it or they don't say it's ready. If they want to fight you, they have to pay some sort of engineer that think and say, hey, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll do that. I did see that. They're just saying that the strata, the council of the strata, have to look at a proposal with all these bits and pieces in it, and it's up to them whether they approve or not approve. And
Yes,
so
but they have
far
to give
saying that the building is not ready, but there is proof that it is anyway.
They can't say, if you believe then it's not reasonable, then you can go to SAT and say,
I don't want to
put
go
all
to
this
SAT.
in.
No, I
No,
don't
but I
want to go
mean,
to SAT.
but that's the next. They then have to prove. They have to come in with actually verifiable to say, here's my engineer's report saying we're not ready for these reasons.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
They
in
can't
Carmen's
say we're not
case,
ready. Yeah.
and the thing in Carmen's case is there already is a three-phase car charger
exactly.
in the same two of them in the same car park.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they can't say, "Oh, we're concerned about charging EVs as dangerous," or
No, so
whatever.
your
because-
electrician would do a load test to make sure. That could be 100% right. In somewhere like I've got an older strata place and it is maxed out. You can't put another air conditioner in because that's so in there's a reasonable thing that says, hey, if you want to do this, we've got to upgrade the main feed in. But that's not just for me with an EV. There's a person upstairs that wants a second air conditioner.
Harold, you were saying that there's only allowed to be one board for the building, but actually there is two. So the commercial area.
No, not a board. You can have multiple boards. You can have I forget what they're called, subboards.
Subboards.
Most properties, a block of land, is only allowed to have one point of power entering it.
Yeah.
Okay.
One source of supply.
Okay.
And that was getting back to things like the WAV network, where in Walpole, it's sort of whenever you upgrade power anywhere for anything, you always have to follow the newest rules for the whole property. So if you have a house built in 1901 and it's got weird and wonderful power, vulcanized India rubber was one of the installations they used for the original cables. If an electrician attends your house just to change a power point and sees that your house has vulcanized India rubber as insulation up the walls, then they are obliged to fix that when they cite it. So whenever you get something done, you always have to abide by the newest conditions. So if you've got a three-phase house that's built in more than 10 years ago and you want to update anything, an electrician attends site, they are obliged to replace your main switch with a 32 amp three-phase circuit breaker as the main switch, even though that was never done before, because you always have to upgrade everything to the newest rules if you make a change. So what happened with WAV Network in Walpole was the council there was a visitor centre and there's a block of toilets and there's other bits and pieces. And back in prehistory, councils just got things done by the local contractor or whatever. And for whatever reason, it was easy to pull power off a second power pole and put another meter there, and it just got done on one block of land that was the council's land. But of course, Western Power became a little bit smart and said, well, actually, only allowed to have a single point of supply. Synergy had to upgrade the power for the entire site and actually move the underground power. I think it was 50 or 60 meters. They had to subterranean trench new power cables, not for the WOV network stuff, but for the visitor centre and the toilet block to make it comply with a single source of power. So it's a real pain in the rear end when you have to basically pay for the sins of everyone else that came before you. But that's just what happens. But no, your building can have multiple distribution boards. That's absolutely completely as many as they like.
Yeah. Well, the commercial side has one, and then there's another one because there's only 18 private units, and I took a photo of that, and it's just got all the sub-meters.
Yes.
So it's not really rocket science.
Not at all. No. And even if at your expense they have to put another sub-meter, I mean, it'd be ideal if they could just pull the power off your unit and give it to you as a PowerPoint next to your car. That's really simple. But it might be cheaper to actually just purchase a second meter and just have it just for your PowerPoint.
Well, I rang Synergy and asked if I could have my own sub-meter, and they said no.
I don't even think Synergy might be involved. Do you get a Synergy power bill or do you get it from your Strata company?
No, Strata company.
Yes. So what it actually is.
My own meter.
No. So in fact, probably what happens is Synergy sells power to the Strata company as one item, which is 1 meter, which is the entire building. Maybe the commercial tenancies might have a separate thing that's possible, but for the rest of the actual Strata company, those sub-meters are actually notionally read by the Strata company. They get one bill from Synergy in total, and then they get all their sub-meters that they read and then split that up amongst all of the owners, and you pay for your share of your sub-meter.
It's very high.
At whatever
I don't
rate.
trust them. I said I want my own meter. I don't want.
No, their meters. Well, the thing is, they have to be NMI meters. They have to be NMI grade commercial meters, and you could at your expense request that they be calibrated or checked. I mean, the power bill can be high because of if you've got aircon, it's going to be high because it'll be ducted and it's just going to be expensive, unfortunately.
It generally does result in lower power bills for all the tenants because you could be, I don't know in this particular circumstance, but I do know a similar circumstance where because you're buying so much electricity, you become a wholesale consumer as opposed to a retail consumer. So potentially it's slightly cheaper overall for everybody.
Yep.
And you've got you have your rights to make sure the meters are read correctly, and you can see them yourself, or you should be able to. So you can check that their numbers are correct. That should be within your rights.
Oh, really? I don't know where they are. I'll find out.
Oh, you'll have to ask them, but yeah.
Well, good luck getting an answer.
They're normally electronically read. Well, it depends on what kind of meter they are. If it's in a building management system, it'll be directly read from the meter. But the meters, I think, almost invariably have their own LCDs on them, the liquid crystal display, as a readable meter itself. So you could check it that way. But of course, that'll be behind a locked cabinet somewhere in the distribution board. Or
they don't give any explanation with the bills. It's just that from this day to that rate, but they don't quote the units, they don't quote the numbers. They just give you an.
Well, you should definitely ask because you need to know how much money they're charging you per kilowatt hour. Because
I have asked, no reply.
Because it's possible. I don't know if it's legal. I don't know what the legalities are. Whether they can actually add a margin.
I think they add a margin to everything.
Yeah, and they could argue that, well, that just reduces your strata fees, but really it ends up being the same thing, doesn't it? If they could be advertising super low strata fees, but charge you super expensive electricity.
We're paying more than other blocks of the same age. and we have
Yeah.
no facilities, so we're not. We have
Yeah.
very high, and they've doubled in the past 18 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can add a
All right.
levy or a service charge, but that legally is supposed to be commensurate with what it's actually costing them. They can't charge you $100 to make that if it's only costing them really $5. It's got to be.
There's no audits. No one. They won't allow audits either.
The sooner you get out of there, as soon as you finish your thing and get out, the better,
Oh,
really.
there's no doubt about that. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about that. They're connected with CHU and John Lyng's, the ones in Sydney that have misdemeanors.
Yeah, I don't know what that thing is, but we won't. That's yeah, whatever. We'll let that sleeping dog lie. All right. Any last? We've done our. We've just hit our 2 hour mark. So any last minute questions or comments before we round out
I
this
have a
awesome?
Tesla-related question.
Oh, yes, James.
I often carry a lot of gear in the back of my Model Y, like lots of gear, like a couple of hundred kilos of tiles or things like that, and the beeping seat. You folded your backrest down, and there's enough pressure on the seat. And like I had a wonderful drive all the way back from Osborne Park the other day. Is there no way to stop that when there's clearly
Yes.
nothing in no
Put the
person?
belt on.
Yes. Put the seatbelt on. In fact, Tesseraes even sell a buckle,
All
a
right.
blank buckle that hasn't got a belt on it that you can just put in to shut the. So as long as
Yep,
there's
it
a
thinks it's
buckle.
buckling. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen them.
It's the only thing you can do,
I've seen them on
James.
Teamwork is people use them for the really, really wrong things, but that will stop it, will it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it'll stop it dead. It will then have other consequences, such as it might automatically turn on the rear aircon, which may or may not be an issue, which you can still turn it off anyway from the main
No,
screen.
that's good to know. I might get myself 3 of them for the back seat.
Oh, and that reminds me of one little aircon pro tip, which I knew, which I wish I realised a couple of laps ago, was for quite a while the footwell and when you look at your normal aircon screen, so you just click on your temperature and it briefly will bring up your aircon controls. A few software updates ago, maybe a couple of years ago, you always had visible a way of manually selecting like air to flow to your feet or to your face or whatever, or to the windscreen, and that's kind of disappeared a few software updates or versions ago. The way you can bring it back is simply tap the auto button in the aircon, so to turn off it from being automatic, and then it will show all of the manual outlets. Because sometimes when you drive, well, me personally, my feet will get hot because it's a hot day, and even though my face is quite cool, the air doesn't really sink that well to your feet. So just hit the auto button to turn auto off. Then you'll suddenly see that you've got windscreen vents, your normal horizontal vents, and your floor vents, and then you can pick which combination of those you want the air to flow to, regardless of temperature, whether it's hot or cold. So just a little pro tip there. All right, any
Well,
last
Harold,
one? Yep.
Hot feet, your age, you better get your blood test done. Could be circulatory problems.
It was a hot day, James. And actually, and Tesla does economize on insulation, so the floor does get a bit warm on a hot day. But yeah, thanks for that advice. It's always good to keep on top of. Visit your GP regularly, boys and girls. Alrighty, any other last ones?
I'll go for broke. Your Wi-Fi in the basement. Look into the leaky coax, the radiating coaxial cables used in all sorts of buildings to get Wi-Fi to places that Wi-Fi doesn't reach.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, look, all I need is to run a surface conduit with Cat5 going to somewhere. Look, I think in the end, I'll be scheming. I know that let's call it a 4G dongle, for lack of a better term, which I could just have, because the cars, if you go into your charger section, that is the way you keep your 12/15 volt power sources always on and your USB sockets always on, is you select that where it says keep power on. That happened a few months ago as an option. So if you've got a fridge or all sorts of things that you want the car to keep alive at night time or when it's parked or during the day or whatever, you can select. So I know at the very least I can just chuck a Netgear or whatever 4G, GSM dongle, Wi-Fi dongle, and do it that way. I know that's guaranteed. But look, I think I might be able to wrangle a way of getting a Ubiquiti outdoor Wi-Fi point, and I think I can probably, if I get the angle right, bounce it off a building or something similar. And as long as I make it yell loud enough, the car might be able to pick it up. Oh, well, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I know a mesh. If you get a mesh, if you put one on your balcony that had sight of one on the wall, so you had from your balcony down the wall, one sitting outside, pointing inside.
Yeah. Well, look, I might be able to convince them. Can I have a solar powered or something little thing that is fit on the outside of the wall so it faces in towards where the cars are, and basically, yeah, there are ways.
Yeah, the leaky coax is
I'll dangle a leaky. What it is, I'll dangle a leaky.
Yeah.
I'll dangle a coax. Yeah, I'll go fishing like no one will notice, and go. There's nothing to see here. Move along, and
put it in conduit. No one will know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right, enough of that. All right, any last questions? I think we're good. All right, I'm going to have to do a double outro, because normally I would ask Pete how he would round out an awesome show like this, as if I didn't already know. To which he would invariably answer that, as always, stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve, which Pete is often good at doing. But I would then obviously answer that, and the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, join TOCWA, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy and abundance. Have a wonderful week, everyone. And I really do look forward to seeing you on next week's episode of TOCWA's Ask Us Anything. Good night, everyone.
Fantastic. Good night.